With expertise in creating commercially viable polymers from renewable sources, he previously led a large synthetic biology program in Europe, pioneering novel biopolymers. Holding over 40 patents and extensive experience with leading biotech firms, he offers valuable insights into next-generation polymers. We are very much looking forward to your groundbreaking presentation on the topic, Shifting the Paradigm, Developing Cost-Effective Biopolymer Products. Welcome, Alec Foster.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in your fantastic city. So it's really nice, actually, to come over from winter to summer and be somewhere quite warm. I'm from New Zealand, so not Australia, so less kangaroos and more hobbits. And that's a picture of where I'm based. So I'm based at Sion, which is the central of the North Island, and very much forestry, and you'll see kind of gases coming off. They're geothermal gases. So very volcanic, very forestry, lots of lakes, very green. So kind of a nice kind of mix. So my talk today, I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of what Sion is, why we're playing in kind of the bioplastics, the real opportunities and how we're translating a lot of our research into impact. Also going to be describing how we're shifting far more towards biotechnology, giving you some insights into some of the things I've done in the past and some of the things that we're implementing at Science. So some of the really cool science in terms of AI, in terms of data management, really kind of evolving how we do a lot of our biopolymers. Also going to go into some of science strategy, how we're looking at a lot of waste feedstocks, how we're going to make it cheaper, how we're going to make it economical, because that's really going to be key to biopolymers and how we're going to push things forward. So Sion itself. Sion is a government research institute. So our role is really to benefit New Zealand. It's really to translate research into impact. And we've got approximately 300 scientists spread between the North Island and South Island. And we're really the government research institute for the circular bioeconomy, industrial manufacturing and kind of scale-up, and forestry. Those are our key areas. And that's why I'm really here today. It's really kind of to highlight the impact that we can have translating a lot of our biomass into biochemicals, into bioplastics. So these are really my KPIs. By 2030, I've got to try build biorefineries with companies. I've got to try reduce CO2, improve GDP growth. Got to try make huge amounts of plastics. And this is something Sion can't do itself. We're a research institute, but our role is to enable industry to achieve these things. And a couple of years ago, when these KPIs were set, many people said that they were crazy. We're never going to build biorefineries in New Zealand. It's not something that we've done. We've already actually achieved 3. So we're actually building stuff on the ground, which is really quite cool. Now, I look after bioproducts and packaging. So I develop a whole range of bioplastics, and those feed through into my composite materials that also feed through into my packaging. So we try to take things across the entire value chain. So developing the biopolymers from waste and moving them all the right through to actually making products. This gives you a bit of an indication of some of our social media posts over the last year, which just shows some of the things that we've been doing. So building biorefineries, developing a range of products, influencing government policy, going out and actually teaching the community about what we do. Really trying to keep people informed, helping them understand the value of bioplastics, the impacts that they can have. But this is really why New Zealand needs to change. We don't have a choice. The US has announced that it wants to move towards 90% bio-based plastics, 30% biochemicals. Europe is also shifting, and New Zealand's a small country. So we need to evolve, we need to adapt, because we're an export nation. So that's why there's a big, big focus upon bioplastics and biochemicals. The other big issue is New Zealand is the biggest log exporter in the world. So basically, we chop down our trees and we ship our logs to China, which is nuts, because we don't capture the value onshore. So we really want to shift the paradigm from shipping logs off to China to actually capturing the value in New Zealand. So building biorefineries to make biochemicals, to make bioplastics. So that's a big, big shift. And that's what we're aiming to do. So why biopolymers? Why are they so important for New Zealand? Well, if you want to make biopolymers, you need a lot of biomass. And that's what New Zealand's got. It's got a whole load of biomass which isn't optimized. Many of the polymer processes are scalable. So previously, it didn't make sense to make plastics in New Zealand. We're too small an economy. Really didn't make sense to do that, so we imported a lot of our polymers. But with new biotech processes, you can scale it down to much smaller scales. The other aspect is that we've got a strong knowledge of allied industries. So a lot of expertise around forestry, medical devices, fish and pickerel, lots around packaging, and a lot of primary industries. And I'm going to give you a bit of an example of some of the things that we've been doing. So here's a biodegradable plant pot where you actually plant the pot with the plant, and it actually feeds the plant. Over the last, actually just about 2 months ago, we made about 50,000 of these pots. So really kind of scaling it up, helping them go into commercial production. Vine clips. So these are now being exported around the world, into France, into Canada. These are biodegradable vine clips. So effectively, to protect your vines from birds, they put up these massive nets with these clips, and when they pull them off, these clips just end up on the floor. So this is something really quite cool, again, going into commercial production. Another product we've helped develop is a printing filament which changes color according to temperature. This was art, so really quite cool, using bio-based plastics to make artwork. So this is David Trubridge, kind of a famous New Zealand designer, and that was at the World Expo. Again, something that we helped develop. This was us helping communities. So French Polynesia, our scientists were all volunteering to be part of this project, basically to help pearl oyster farmers. So plastic waste in the reefs was a real issue. So we developed a biopolymer solution, so helped lay out thousands of these pearl oyster devices. So really quite cool. We recently licensed the technology around a wood fiber composite, which is going into car manufacturers. So we're working with big car manufacturers in the US at the moment. Also, doing a lot around nanocellulose. So we've just in the process of building a nanocellulose plant from seaweed. So this will be the first commercial nanocellulose from seaweed in the world. So really quite cool. It's a science-developed technology, and we're helping design and build the plant. So really, really quite cool. But nanocellulose is just kind of a starting point. New Zealand needs to be producing more biopolymers. And that's why we're going big into biotechnology. Biotech is a real big push for us. And over the last year or two, we've been rapidly expanding the team, we've been expanding the capability, we've been building new labs, and we've been developing genetic toolkits, developing new biopolymers. And this is really kind of my expertise. This is where I come from an industrial background of doing it in the US, doing it in the UK. But why now? Why are we kind of big focus upon biotechnology and synthetic biology? And really, it's a combination of reasons. It's a combination of costs, it's a combination of different technologies. And these technologies are going to have a dynamic impact. Just as AI today is having a disruptive change on a number of industries, synthetic biology is going to have a huge impact as well in the future. And biopolymers are going to be drastically impacted because we're going to see a step change improvement in the productivity. We're going to see a whole range of new biopolymers being developed. So I'm going to describe a bit of the convergence of biology and engineering, computer science, chemistry, data science, automation, and AI, because they're all going to play a key part in how the bioplastics are going to look like in the future. So the first thing is the cost of DNA technologies. So effectively, 20-odd years ago, if you sequence the human genome, it costs 100 million. Now you can sequence the human genome for about $400. Huge decrease. That's kind of an exponential decrease in costs. When I was a kid, I would have loved to have been doing genetic engineering in high school, but that's now occurring. It's becoming normalized. It's becoming a standardized technology, something that someone can do in their garage, is make glow-in-the-dark yeast. So that's going to have a huge impact. The other aspect is the convergence of biology and engineering. So really, when DNA was expensive, everyone made bespoke bits of DNA. They kind of did a lot of work trying to tailor it, trying to make it as best as they could. But now that DNA has become so cheap, we're able to standardize our parts. We're able to treat it like Lego pieces. And with standardization, that unlocks automation. And that allows scale. So that's what's happening in the biology sphere. We're able to treat biology much more like electrical engineering. So standardized parts, a bit like transistors, resistors, capacitors, all those sorts of things, just doing the same with biology. And that engineering approach is having a huge disruptive change. We can now kind of program our DNA a bit like we would program a computer. So this kind of gives an example. When I started off in this field, when I did my PhD, I got awarded the best PhD in the university because I characterized 5 enzymes. And I thought that was fantastic at the time. A few years ago, I screened 20,000 enzymes and 1,000 different pathways. And that was done in 6 months. So a huge step change in the amount of enzymes we're able to screen, the development of the bioplastics we're able to make. And this is something that we're doing at SIAN. We're collaborating with partners in Sweden and Australia to actually achieve these sorts of things. The other aspect is the chemistry and data science. So we can now measure every single chemical in a cell. We can measure every single gene which is turned on. And you can map it out. So you can understand, actually, there's a lot of carbon going to fatty acid synthesis over here. I want to redivert that carbon somewhere else. I want to redivert that carbon to a bioplastic. So you can actually go, oh, I can screen 100 organisms. Which is the best organism for actually making my product? So that's something we're doing at SIAN at the moment. We're screening lots of different organisms. We're understanding the natural carbon flux that goes through these organisms and figuring out which is the best organism for the best bioplastic. So that's going to have a huge impact. Plus, you can start to predict the butterfly effect. What happens if you knock out a gene or add in a gene and predict what is the consequences going to be? The other aspect is artificial intelligence. So we're able to actually design new and different pathways. So in the past, there's been a lot of work upon the natural biopolymers, like the PHAs and so on. However, I'm quite interested in developing new and different polymers, polymers that can't be made through petrochemical routes. So, for example, odd chain polymers. There's huge opportunity. And we can use AI algorithms to predict what enzymes could make these new different types of reactions which don't occur in nature. Also, Google, they've been doing a lot of work around 3D design of enzymes. So now we can actually start designing enzymes to specific unnatural reactions. So this is really quite cool. So we've been doing a lot of work around AI to actually redesign the enzymes, redesign the pathways for our products. Now, a lot of that seems far-fetched, but I know it can be done because I've done it in the past. So before I came to SIAN, I used to work for Koch Industries, and this is something I did in the past. I headed up a team converting carbon dioxide into nylon. So developing a pathway which doesn't exist in nature, doing reactions which don't exist in nature to make the precursors for nylon. So these are the types of products that we should be making in the future. These are the types of polymers we should be developing. And just to give an indication, a New Zealand company, Lanzatech, they've recently produced a shoe out of carbon dioxide. So lots of cool stuff is going to be occurring in the space. So Scion's strategy. So I realize I'm pretty close on time, so I've just highlighted just a few things. We've taken an open innovation approach. Scion can't develop all these different technologies by itself, but we do have some really good expertise in some key areas. So we're working with a variety of different partners all across the globe in order to be able to implement our new approaches, in order to develop new and different polymers. So a great example is we've partnered up with Innate in France to develop new polymer processes. So we're the only associated lab in New Zealand. And actually, one of the nice outputs of that is we recently won a Horizon Fund. So New Zealand just joined Horizon, so we're now very keen on European collaborations. The other aspect is a big, big focus on waste. Because if we want to make our bioplastics economical, we need to be utilizing waste feedstocks. And if we're utilizing waste feedstocks, we need the microbes that can eat those waste feedstocks. So we've been doing a lot of work around plastic recycling, so taking things like PHA, breaking those down back into the monomer and feeding them back into a fermentation process, but also doing that with PLA and various other biopolymers. We've been doing a lot of work around gas fermentation. So New Zealand, it's got a whole load of geothermal activity. So we're in the process of helping build a pilot-scale plant where we're going to take the geothermal gases and convert those into products. So that's really quite cool. We are doing a lot of work around wood sugars, lignocellulosic materials, tall oil, dairy waste, and converting those into different polymers. So lots and lots of different activities across a breadth of different waste feedstocks, but a big focus on making things like PHAs, plasticizers, and novel biopolymers, which aren't commercially available at the moment. The other aspect is scale-up. So I'm quite lucky to have some of the scientists from Lanzatech who didn't want to go over to the US and you stayed in New Zealand. And we're taking a lot of our polymers and scaling them up. So at the moment, one of our big issues is so much of our work gets stuck in the lab. We're in the process of designing and looking to build scaled up processes, so 1,000, 10,000 litre sort of scale, to be able to make our different biopolymers at Scion. So lots and lots of activities, being able to take small-scale fermentation all the way up to large-scale production. And that's it. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for your very exciting presentation, Alec Foster. Yes, and now we would like to open the session for answers, for questions and answers. Yeah.
As I'm a biotech guy by myself, I'm wondering if you could give us much more examples besides PHA and nylon. So if I didn't miss anything else, I saw on different slides some monomers with 5 new ones or promising. Could you give some more, or is it still confidential?
A lot of it's confidential, but we first started off with a variety of monomers which are made for... What I can say is a lot of the odd chain polymers are a lot of our targets, because those tend to be the ones which you can't make through petrochemical routes economically. And so we are looking at a lot of linear difunctionals in the kind of the C5 to C13 kind of range. So amides, polyesters, quite a mix.
Okay, may I ask a second question, a more general one? Since we all know biotechnology or biology, nature is characterized by water, let's say 90% water, And then if we go ahead to the polymer processing and application, so we need to get rid of all the water since the chemists like pure substances. Do you have any general new approaches in that direction?
There are. One of the advantages we've got is actually the geothermal in New Zealand. So we're able to utilize a lot of the natural heat and temperature to recycle that. But we're also looking at a large part of recapturing a lot of the water from our fermentation processes. So just circulating around, because I think that's essential to reduce the water footprint. But that's something I agree that actually needs to be a lot more done to make it feasible.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, next question.
Hello, Alec, thank you for your presentation. And I have quite a general question. You have shown a lot of beautiful applications, very modern, like very, let's say, even futuristic. But when you consider developing the biopolymer technologies or biopolymer materials, you try to fit the existing industry of New Zealand, or you want to develop a new industry for these materials?
I want to develop a new industry.
New industry?
Yes, because I think that's what New Zealand needs to do. So one of the challenges New Zealand has is it's been very much focused on primary industries. So dairy, forestry, those kind of sectors, and very little really in manufacturing.
So this is just like ideological concept. So it needs to be like a new industry, but not, let's say, initiated from the industry. So you see the demand from industry for new materials.
Yes, we do see a demand, and I think what we're seeing is, say, how I described the forestry sector. They're recognizing the risk of their industry at the moment because China wants to be fiber self-sufficient in about 20 years. So they're really worried about what are they going to do with their logs. So they're looking for alternative outputs of where can they create value? What are the new value chains, value networks that they can create? So what I'm doing is I'm putting opportunities to them and saying, this is what we could be doing. This is the value we could capture. So it's highlighting how we could shift New Zealand into new sectors.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Alec, thanks very much also from my side for this inspiring talk. I'm a patent attorney, so I was smiling when you said that you cannot talk about many things because of confidentiality, so probably that might be the reason why. So that first question I would have is related to that. What is your idea? How important is intellectual property in that field as well to have a basis for having something which you can offer to others, offer exclusively? So is that a path you're going along, or do you more propagate the spreading of any news immediately?
A bit of both, if I'm honest. I come from working for a US company, so I've got 40 patents myself developing different biopolymer processes. So I understand the intrinsic value. But I'm also very conscious I don't want IP locked up because I've seen that happen with some of my own inventions. Yeah. So that's one of the big reasons I ended up at Scion, because I actually wanted to see my research translated into products. So Scion is looking to capture some patents, and we have filed some patents very recently around different biopolymers. However, generally, my role is to benefit New Zealand. So our role is really to try and get the technology out there.
Yeah. If I may, a second question.
Yeah.
Because you put nicely together the factors, and then your conclusion was, at the moment, driven by politics for New Zealand as a small country. As you said, I think it's not so small, but still, that this drives the interest and this drives the direction. You mentioned the disruptive potential of the whole thing. So what is your expectation, your hope for a timeline? So will it be that at a certain point it will just kick off and will become exponential, or will it be just growing slowly and still depend on politics? Or will it one time be the other way around, so that the science drives and steers the politics?
That's a really good question. I think we do need the politics to come in, because one of the big issues that we've got is the oil industry is moving towards polymers, as they move away from petrol. So they are betting big on polymers. So that's going to create an awful lot of competition and potentially drive down prices. So I think we are reliant on government policy, and I'm hopeful with Biden's announcement, but I'm also very cautious that Trump could get in and it all be thrown out the window. So I think we're delicately placed at the moment, and I wouldn't want to bet one way or the other. But I think the technology is going to reach a point where we are cost competitive, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Alec, I also had a question, but I'm seeing we're running out of time. Knowing that here are a lot of people also dealing with biopolymers in context of forestry industry, I would like to also welcome you to get in dialogue with the one or the other, because I think there's also quite interesting combinations possible. So thank you very much for your lecture.
Thank you so much. Yes.